Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen and ladies and gents, we've got a video we're doing here. I'm on a different computer, and I'm installing Microsoft Office on this computer because I'll be using this computer from time to time and times and times and times and times. We're going to run this as administrator. Now, by doing it and installing it this way, this is a one-click Microsoft Office. So basically, when you get Microsoft Office, many of you will just click on install now. No, you must always do customize, and you must always run all of these so that you install all of them at one time. Then you hit install. I could have went ahead and programmed the name and all that stuff, but I didn't need to do all that because all of that wasn't necessary. I'm not going to use the KMS auto. Nah, that usually shows up as a virus on everybody else's computer. We're not going to use that because we don't need to use that. Got to go to music. Just like music. Okay, I need my music. Y'all know me. Y'all know me. Now, I need y'all just to work with me for a second. We got a lot to talk about. In this video, we're going to talk about what system we're under, why the system operates the way it does, and why many of you are in trouble. Not me. You guys are in trouble. So I gotta see which music I'm gonna play. You know what? Let's just do it. We're just gonna pick all of these. Okay? I don't know who these artists are, and I gotta be very careful because I download a lot of music, and some of the music, whew, if I even think they're gonna say something I don't want them to say, they ain't gonna play. You know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? I'm glad you understand. So we're gonna bring this down to about 22. Okay? And let's see if we can do this again. Shaka Khan, that's my girl. Y'all know that. Okay, that is my girl. I'm gonna turn my volume up because I can't hear, and I need to hear Shaka. Hold on. Oh, using a different system, so it's gonna work out a little bit different. So, and this is Shaka doing a little bit of jazz. I let her do that. You know, see, we got Herbie Hancock, uh, the Righteous Brothers, Cyndi Lauper, Eye to Eye by Paul Sampson, Funkadelic. You know what I'm saying? Tina Turner, Boys to Men, Love Me Still by Shaka Khan, Rolling Stones, Technotronic. Oh God, I don't think so. Pump up the jam, pump it up, pump it just like we ain't playing that, y'all. Like I told you, music connoisseur. Now, I was transferring some files to this computer, but I don't need to transfer those files anymore. What we need to do is we need to talk. Mr. Speaker, we are here now in Chapter 11. Members of Congress are the official trustees presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity in world history, the United States government. Senator John Traficant Jr. Okay? Went to jail, y'all. Shouldn't have said that on public record. Should not have said that. Went to jail. See, you're getting a lot of trouble when you reveal stuff you ain't supposed to be revealing. The Arizona Republic, this is what John Gaffron said in 1992. I have never seen more senators express discontent with their job. We have been accomplices to doing something terrible and unforgivable to this wonderful country. We have given our children a legacy of bankruptcy. We have defrauded our country to get ourselves elected. It's kind of nice. What side am I on? We might as well give these individuals the credit, the ones who put this up. The site is called www.criminalgovernment.com. I've never been to this site before today, and if I have, I don't remember. Have I read this stuff before? No. I just think it's interesting because you guys need to understand what's going on. So let's do this. We're going to go here, then we're going to type in UBSB, and then we're going to do government. Oh, no, bankruptcy, sorry. BANK. Okay. RUPTCY. I'll do the whole word because it didn't find it. Yeah, let's do it that way. Because I put an us. It wanted me to have capitalized US. Okay, so it says bankruptcy court. So let's do this. I got that right there. Let's go here. United States. Let's do the 1933. The bankruptcy happened before 1933, but 1933 when it was is when it was announced. Now you see how this one, the big plantation, don't care about that. America House Joint Resolution, don't care about the House Joint Resolutions. I'm actually looking for the document that I showed all of you, the one that talks about the U.S. government and the bankruptcy. Okay, I'm looking for that. So let's do this so that all of you guys can get it. We put 1933. Let's do bankruptcy of the United States government of the United States. And let's do RCH ninth 19. Oh, that's a zero. Got it, can't. And see, I'd hit 8. It's not too light in here. 933. So let's get rid of that 9 and put that 9 and do some strict 9. Hey, sorry, wrong 9. That 9. And do some strict 9 USA. Ladies and gentlemen, what's the difference between me and all these other people out there doing videos? Well, the one thing about me is I'm going to show you where I'm coming from. Show you where I'm coming from. Show you where I'm coming from. Show you where I got it from. Okay? Take a look at this one. Because this one actually has the March 9th, 1933. And this one actually has House Joint Resolution by the 73rd Congress, who voted into law, which is the Emergency Banking Act. The act declared the Treasury. Now, this is Anti-Corruption Society, but exposed1933.com. This one right here, no, I don't want to do that. Well, let's do this one. It says you have the right is the name of the site. Okay, so the site is called, oh, this is Alicia Keys. And out with whom? Sometimes. All right. 1933 was the year of major events in America. During this year, congressional money, gold, became outlawed. Well, and effectively all property in America became mortgaged or held in trust by the Federal Reserve banks as collateral for the national debt. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell it to you like it is. I'm shocked that that whole statement is 100% true. Everything right here is 100% accurate by statute. And that's what I'm about to do, is show you the statute. You've already seen the video where I showed you not House Joint Resolution, excuse me, where I showed you, see, this one talks about the Act of June 5th. We're not talking about the Act of June 5th. We're talking about the March 9th Act. The Act of June 5th was only a continuation of the March 9th Act. The March 9th Act is the one that made gold outlawed. But anyway, this was the year that the government instituted the creation of the all capital letter straw man. See, get rid of the word straw man. Don't use that in your vocabulary. Okay? They created what's known as corporate fictions, embodied in human beings. In other words, where the American people stood as surety. Okay? The American citizens, it says, via the newly required birth certificate. Ladies and gentlemen, birth certificates were required in the early 1900s, 1913, right around that time. For American citizens, thus creating a whole new class of person or debtor slaves. The whole new class of persons was created with the 14th Amendment. So I was going to give this site some credit because, like I said, that first statement was true, but after that first statement, And right here, they're only parroting what they've heard other people say, which is very, 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 very disturbing. Ladies and gentlemen, they don't give any facts. But we do have this fact so that you all know that, oh, look at that. Wait, hold on, go back up. Sorry. They have March 12th, 1933. You see, now look, I need you guys to pay attention. They talk about June 5th, 1933, but the act that was signed into law was March 9th, 1933, and an act to relieve the existing national economic emergency. okay, by increasing agricultural purchasing power to raise revenue for extraordinary expenses incurred by reason of such emergency, to provide emergency relief with respects to agricultural indebtedness, meaning people, because people are agriculture, to provide for the orderly liquidation of joint stock land banks and other purposes approved March 12th, 1933. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what you need to understand. You see, it says is amended to read as follows. And so they said they amended it by this act. Well, they did because the act of June 5th and 6th actually does speak to the agricultural issues and the emergency. But we're interested in March 9th. What happened on March 9th? Well, Roosevelt signed two proclamations on the 3rd, the 6th, which was made into law on the 9th. 2038, which brought forth Congress to meet on the 9th of July, not, the 9th of March. Okay? Uh-oh. Says I'm offline. I ain't offline, I'm online. See, that's just getting on my nerves. Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, when the Proclamation 2038 was introduced, it led to Proclamation 2039 and 2040, which was an amendment to a particular thing. So let's find out what 2039 and 2040, the emergency banking, no, we're going to do that. Forget that. We're going to do the Emergency Banking Relief Act that it talked about earlier. Wait a minute. Got to go all the way up here because the Economic Emergency Relief Act of the banks. Matter of fact, that's down below. That's not up here because I didn't read it up here. I read it down below. Okay, so we got to go down, 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 down. Give me you. Stop moving. Federal Reserve, National Banking Association. There it is. We're going to do this. Let's do this. Google! Now, by the way, I was telling everybody that Verizon was doing some stupid things to my account. Yesterday, I was being thrown off the internet left and right every time I tried to do something, and I decided to increase my account with Verizon to get rid of that by paying more. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a lie. Now, they actually decreased my speed. What I want you all to pay attention to is this right here. House resolution. You see, a House resolution is just that, a resolution. A House joint resolution is a resolution by both parties. The actual act is different. That's why you hear people talking about this Public Law 1073. Okay? Well, the act is law. The resolution is just a bill. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I got as far as Capitol Hill. All of you need to go back and re-listen to that because they told you how things are enacted. So why so many people keep shouting House Joint Resolution is beyond me. Let's to suspend and abrogate the gold standard. That's what the resolution, not the resolution, but the actual act did. What I want to do is I want to go here, the Emergency Banking Act in Wikipedia. I know Wikipedia is trying to clear up its image so that people will see that they are a little bit more legitimate because they weren't legitimate when they first started off. Anybody could sit up there and comment on an article and edit an article. Didn't even need approval. Okay, the Emergency Banking Act, the official title of which was the Emergency Banking Relief Act. Now, who told y'all that? I remember Justice League. You finally done? I'm gonna watch me some Justice League, y'all. I don't know the quality of it, but I'm just gonna watch it later. Anyway, it says Public Law 1, 48 Stat. 1 March 9, 1933 was an act passed by the United States Congress in March of 1933 in an attempt to stabilize the banking system. No, it wasn't. That's not what the act was for. That's what they said it was for. Beginning on February 14th, 1933, Michigan, in an industrial state, Michigan in other words, an industrial state which had been hit particularly hard by the Great Depression of the United States, declared an 8-day banking holiday. Fears that other bank closures spread from state to state as people rushed to withdraw their deposits. That's right, they started a panic. While they still could do so, within weeks, all other states held their own bank holidays in an attempt to stem the bank runs. On March 4th, Delaware became the 48th and last state to close its banks. Delaware? You mean where all them corporations are located? They're all registered? That was the last one? Following his inauguration on March 4th, 1933, actually March 3rd, is when he did it. He didn't wait till the 4th. Go ahead and look at when Proclamation 2038 was enacted. He didn't even wait till the next day. President Benjamin Roosevelt Franklin set out to rebuild confidence in the nation's banking system. On March 6th, he declared a 4-day national banking holiday that kept all banks shut until Congress could act, i.e., the Proclamation 2039, a draft law prepared by the Treasury staff during Herbert Hoover's administration, was passed on March 9, 1933. A draft law that was already pre-written before Roosevelt had even gotten office. The new law reminds you of the Patriot Act, doesn't it? Sure does. The new law allowed 12 Federal Reserve banks to issue additional currency on good assets so that the bank could reopen so that the banks that reopened would be able to meet every legitimate call. Okay. The Emergency Banking Act, an amendment to the Trading with the Enemies Act, was introduced on March 9, 1933 to a joint session of Congress and was passed the same evening amid the atmosphere of chaos and uncertainty as over 100 new Democratic members of Congress swept into power, determined to take radical steps to address banking failures and other economic failures. Ladies and gentlemen, the EBA was one of President Roosevelt's first projects, the Emergency Banking Act, in the first 100 days of his presidency. And since the urgency was such that the act was passed with only a single copy available on the floor of the House of Representatives, the legislators voted on it after the bill was read aloud to them by Chairman of the House and Banking Committee, Henry Stegall. You heard about the Stegall Act, haven't you? Well, that's him right there. Copies were made available. We got marquees last night. Don't know. Anyway, copies were made available to the senators as the bill was being proposed in the Senate after it had passed in the House. According to William Saber, the Emergency Banking Act of 1933, passed by Congress on March 9, 1933, 3 days after Franklin Delano Roosevelt declared a nationwide banking holiday, combined with the Federal Reserve's commitment to supply unlimited amounts of currency to reopen the banks. See, unlimited amounts of currency to reopen the bank. They were supposed to be Federal Reserve notes. Federal Reserve bank notes, not Federal Reserve notes. Created 100% deposit insurance. 100% deposit insurance. 100% deposit insurance because they represented a mortgage on each of the homes of all the people of the nation. Okay. To return their stash cash to neighborhood banks. Okay. Within 2 weeks, Americans had redeposited more than half of the currency that they had squandered world away before the bank suspension. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, because they included the gold with that. The stock market registered its approval as well on March 15th, the first day of stock trading after the extended closure of Wall Street. The New York Stock Exchange recorded the largest one-day percentage price increase ever, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average gaining 8.26 percentage points at the close. They closed at 62.10. We're at 23,000. They were only at 62.10 back then. A gain of 15.34%. With the benefit of hindsight, the nationwide banking holiday and the Emergency Banking Act of March 1933 ended the bank run that had plagued the Great Depression. A month later, on April 5th, 1933, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102, criminalizing the possession of monetary gold by any individual, partnership, association, or corporation, and Congress passed a similar resolution in June 1933. Okay, 1933 did not stop it. June 1933 didn't stop it. If you read the March 9th Act, you will see the act specifically makes it unlawful for anyone to hoard gold because it was an amendment of the Trading with the Enemies Act. Can you prove that? Because you're just talking. You know how you talk. Watch this. The Trading with the Enemies Act. Well, no, let's do this. Let's get rid of 1917, put 19, and let's get rid of to amend. Uh-oh. Shaka Khan, End of a Love Affair. Heard this song a couple of times, y'all. A couple of like 70. Because I downloaded all of Shaka Khan's music. That's right, I downloaded it because I like Shaka. Okay? Trading with the Enemies Act, I put 1933, March 9th, 1933. Yeah, I don't want this one. It says he makes the U.S. citizens enemies. I don't want that one. Now, this one is titled War and Emergency Powers, which is why that stupid attorney was sitting up there. Oh, look at that. And it talks about the gold fringe flag. So somebody else is putting the pieces together because we're going to be talking about that in a minute. So y'all stay tuned because we're going to show y'all what jurisdiction y'all have been under all of this time. So y'all stay tuned. As a matter of fact, I need y'all to stay tuned for just 1 second. I have to walk over yonder. Look at that. I done walked over yonder and I done got where I needed to get. Give me 1 second, people. I'm typing something on the other computer because I was doing multifaceted work, and that's just what I do. So y'all hold on a second. I'll be right back to finish explaining this. At the end of this conversation, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you a complete rundown as to how all the pieces come together. Okay? I don't care about Henry Kissinger. Since 1933, the United States has been in a state of declared national emergency. Now, how do they prove this? In fact, there are now in effect 4 presidential proclaimed state of national emergencies. No, actually, the NDAA declares a new state of emergency. This is where we need to get. So this site right here is APFN. AP as in Paul, F as in Frank, F as in Frank. So APFN, and it's .org. Okay, but anyway. In addition to the national emergency declared by President Roosevelt in 1933, there have also been the national emergency proclaimed by President Truman on December 16, 1950, during the Korean conflict, and the states of national emergency declared by President Nixon on March 23, 1970. Interesting, ain't it? Certainly. And August 15, 1971. Okay, now here we go. Here's the point that we need to understand. Senate Report 93-549, War and Emergency Powers Act, Executive Order, and new, that It doesn't say New World Order. Stop doing that, you idiots. Okay, anyway, the introduction to Senate Report, 93rd Congress, or maybe it does say the New World Order. In the 93rd Congress, first session, 1973, summarizes the situation that we face today, except that it's far worse today than it was in 1973. Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, the Senate report is of 1976. I've already shown that to you, proved that to you, gave that to you. So let's do this. A majority of the people of the United States have lived all their lives under emergency rule for 40 years now, 66 years, freedoms and governmental pressures. No, this is written by the Senator Grant. Yeah, this is written by Senator Grant. This is not the actual Senate report. Okay, so I need to get away from that. No, 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 no. I was thinking that he was going to show the part where it said it was still extant. So let's see. 1973. Yeah, the Senate report. Okay, but Senator Grant was the one who I saw said that. The Constitution suspended. Let's go because I want to see major premise. The introduction to the Senate report. The Congress summarizes the situation as best as possible. The majority of the people in the country have lived their lives under emergency. In the United States, actions taken by the government in times of great crisis have, from at least the Civil War, in important ways, shaped the present phenomena of permanent state of national emergency. That's right. It has existed way before 1933. Is the Constitution suspended? Chapter 35 of International Emergency Economic Powers. International Emergency Economic Powers. Any authority granted the President in Section 1712 of this title may be exercised to deal with any unusual extraordinary debt, which has the source, and it has its source as the whole and substantial part, other side of the United States, to the national security of foreign policy, the economy of the United States, and the President declares a national emergency with respect to such threat. Okay, so basically they're saying all the President has to do is declare a national emergency with respect to such debt. These are all the videos I'm watching. Anyway, Sting! Didn't know that was Sting. That's why I had to see who it was, y'all. Sting! Okay. Oh, that hurt. It stings. Okay. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's understand something that's going on here. They're saying that the President can declare an emergency, national emergency, anytime he wants. And when he declares it, this section of the International Emergency Economic Powers comes into play. That's exactly what the March 9, 1933 Act says. Remember, that's what we're supposed to be looking up because the Emergency Banking Act of 1933 was an amendment to the Trading with the Enemies Act. Well, let's get back here. Okay. The authorities granted to the President by Section 1702 of this title may only be exercised to deal with an unusual and extraordinary threat with respects to which the national emergency has been declared for purposes of this chapter and may not be exercised for any other purpose. Any exercise of such authorities to deal with any new threat shall be based on a new declaration of national emergency, which must be with respects to such threat. Now, this was in 1973. Okay? And this was published. Well, no, this wasn't published in 1996. This was 1973. It's when Congress said that. But you notice it doesn't say anything about the suspending of any constitution. Section 1631, Declaration of National Emergency by Executive Order, Authority, Publication, and Federal Registry, transmittal to Congress. When the President declares a national emergency, no powers or authorities made available by statute for use in the event of an emergency shall be exercised unless and until the President specifies the provision of law under which he purposes that he or other officers will act, such as in 1933. They stated that they were acting under the emergency powers of the Trading with the Enemies Act. Such specifications, remember when Bush declared war against Iraq, he stated he was doing it under this and doing it under that. That's why they do that, ladies and gentlemen. May be made either in the declaration of national emergency or by one or more contemporaneous or subsequent executive orders published in the Federal Registry and transmitted to Congress. You see, all they have to do is publish it in the Federal Registry and they're giving the people notice. Will we ever come up with a solution until we know the problem. The wars, no, not worried about that. Media releases, we are the enemy. Uh, you guys can read that later. I'm not really concerned about that part. This video is not focusing on stuff like that. This video is focusing on letting you guys know what jurisdiction you're in when you go into court. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to get rid of this because I don't need this anymore. Uh-oh, we got to connect. Okay, get rid of you. Okay, now we're here. I don't want this. I don't want any of that stuff because I don't need any of that stuff. What I need is well, let's do the Act of March 9th, 1933. So we're going to do our Google search. And then I'll do, come on, come on, come on. My signal may have decreased because I moved my base. So let's do this. I'm gonna have to put you guys on pause for one more second. That's right. When Pump Up the Jam came on, I definitely wasn't gonna let y'all listen to that junk. Sorry, I don't like it. The rule of necessity. Look at that. Rule of necessity. The War Powers Act. It's not called the War Powers Act. The trading, I mean, not the trading, but the Act of March 9th, 1933. Let's do the Emergency Banking Act. It's called the Emergency Banking Relief Act of 1933. Do you see how they have Emergency Banking Relief Act here? Official title of which was the Emergency Banking Relief Act. Now, is this the same one we were looking at before? Give me a second. Because, yeah, that's not what I'm looking for. This is not going to be the one I need. It does talk about March 9, 1933. I need that, but I'm actually looking for, let's go ahead. I'm looking for the actual act. So let's Google that. Google! Google, 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 Google. Okay, Google. You know that's how they came up with the name. That's how stupid and lame and backwards they were. Okay? Now, understand that, again, most of you don't get where we are, where we've been. So I'm going to tie this in so you'll know when you walk into the courts what jurisdiction you happen to be in. Because that's the problem. You don't know where you're at. And because you don't know where you're at, you're walking in there trying all kind of dumb junk. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand this so that you get it. We've already tried all the junk. Okay? We've already tested out all of the theories. Okay? We've done that for you well in advance. Why? Because, as I told you, I personally got tired of people going to jail. Okay? I got tired of that. So if I can't find it in here, let's do this. I think this site might actually do it for us. It says the emergency banking legislation passed by Congress today is the most constructive step towards a solution for the financial and banking difficulties which have confronted our country. The extraordinary rapidity with which the legislation was enacted by Congress hardens and encourages the country. Okay, this was Treasury William Woolen. 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 Would you say goodbye? Anyway, I can assure you that it is safer to keep your money in reopened banks than under your mattress. Look at that. Franklin Roosevelt told people, put your money back in the bank. Ladies and gentlemen, you notice how they all highlight the fact that he declared a 4-day banking holiday? Well, the banking holiday was supposed to end on March 13th, but it didn't because it was supposed to end on March 13th if he introduced another proclamation. But before he could introduce another proclamation, Congress had recognized his emergency, and I second that emotion. Okay? They second the emotion. Okay, what I was looking for was the fact of the Trading with the Enemies Act, the actual wording of the document. And you notice none of them included the wording of the document. And I don't feel like looking all over the world for it. Been around the world and I don't. Okay, I'm not going to do that. So let's get rid of that. Let me show you guys what's going on. The banking, the Emergency Banking Relief Act was an amendment to the Trading with the Enemies Act. The Trading with the Enemies Act is an act that the president exercises authority under his military capacity as commander in, just the letter N, chief capacity. Okay? Trading with the Enemies Act, enacted October 6, 1917, or the October 6, 1917 Act, okay? And is a United States federal law that restricts trade with countries hostile to the United States. No, it does a whole lot more than restrict trade. Stupid mother. Anyway, let's get to 1933. Congress amended the act by passing the Emergency Banking Relief Act, which extended the scope of the Trading with the Enemies Act regarding the hoarding of gold to include any declared national emergency and not just those declared solely during times of war. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Delano, then used these new authorities to essentially outlaw gold ownership through the issuance of Executive Order. No, ladies and gentlemen, he didn't outlaw gold ownership. Congress did with the Emergency Banking Relief Act. The Trading with the Enemies Act, the Trading with the Enemies Act is sometimes confused with the National Emergency Economic Powers Act. No, that was 19, which grants somewhat broader powers to the president. That was 1976, okay, in which it invoked during times of state emergency. So let's do this. Let's go here. I know 1973 they said, but the Senate information was, see, look at that, 1977. 1976 was when it was introduced. So it was 1976. Okay, but this is the very same Senate was putting this junk together that said that the so-called banking holiday or the proclamations by President Roosevelt were still extant. EXTANT, extant. Okay, so they talked about how they were curtailing. Let's see, Congress enacted this in 1977 to codify and restrict the presidential powers during times of declared national emergency under the Trading with Enemies Act. Franklin Roosevelt, the 1933 president, had the power to declare emergencies without limiting their scope or duration, without citing relevant statutes, and without congressional oversight. Supreme Court in Youngstown Street versus Tube Company and Sawyer. This is a 1960 case, ain't it? Limited what a president could do in such emergency, but did not limit the emergency declaration itself. See, this was a 1960 case. Let's make sure that. 1952. Okay, in this case, we see it's not 1933 anymore. They were still talking about the so-called Emergency Banking Relief Act, which they said was still extant. Okay, then this is the Korean War and everything else in this case that they bringing up. Why? Because the government said that because of the war, they were going to seize the steel mills. And so there was a case. And that's where the Supreme Court said, no, the president's whatever he did not suspend a person's rights. See, the Supreme Court said that. Now, I'm just breaking it down to you what the Supreme Court said. It's just nobody has gone in because they keep telling you the Constitution is suspended. Go and read this case, Youngstown Street and Tube Company versus Sawyer, and read what the Supreme Court said about the president's authority. Notice this was a United States Supreme Court decision that limited the power of the President of the United States to seize private property in the absence of either specifically enumerated authority under Article 2 of the United States Constitution or statutory authority conferred on him by Congress. It was a stinging rebuff for President Truman. Ladies and gentlemen, they basically said that individuals had rights. Oh, and by the way, it's a constitutional authority, which means the Constitution is not suspended. Oops. Supreme Court said that. And I promise you, I told you I don't like this song. I can't play this song because of what it talks about. So I choose not to listen to that song. But we can do Tina Turner. People say, well, that song may not. I don't know this song, y'all. I really don't know this song. Okay, the case colloquially referred to as Youngstown Steel case or the Steel seizure case. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to get you all to see here is everything is in statute, everything is in history. You know what you can't do? You cannot change history. But they change history out. No, 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 they don't change history. You cannot change history. You can rewrite history, but you cannot change history. It's already happened. You can't change reality. No one can. Okay? It is a fact. Yes, I've heard this song before. Okay, sorry. So let me get rid of this because we don't need this anymore. This right here, we don't need this. U.S. Bankruptcy 1933. We do need this, a little bit of this, because this is the site I took you to, criminal government, where I told you that they had gone off track a little bit. Let me tell you why we're going to this site. I'm looking for something not let's see. I think of all the damnable hearing. Don't know this word, you guys. Heresies that have ever been suggested in connection with the Constitution. The doctrine of emergency is the worst. It means that when Congress declares an emergency, there is no Constitution. Do you see that? It means it's death. It is the very doctrine that the German chancellor is invoking today. Ladies and gentlemen, no, it doesn't mean that, because Congress does not have the authority to suspend the Constitution. There is no authority in the Constitution for either Congress or the president to suspend the Constitution. There is no authority even for the Supreme Court to suspend the Constitution. The Constitution has not been suspended. Guess what has been happening? Okay, look, this is the Senate report 1976, not 1973. Since March 9, 1933, the United States has been in a state of declared national emergency. Okay, that's when they declared it was still extant. That's the document that I read to you guys already. Let's see, the vast powers taken together confer enough authority. Nah, don't care about that. 40 years of freedom, don't care about that. The majority of the United States don't care about that. Don't care. I'm looking for one particular thing. And if I don't find it, I'm going to go to something else because this place is taking me every place that I don't want to be. It says, this is the actual act. So I'm actually glad I went down. The actions and regulations, rules and licenses, orders and proclamations heretofore and hereafter taken, promulgated, made, or issued by the President of the United States or Secretary of the Treasury since March the 4th, 1933, pursuant to the authority conferred by subsection 5, subsection of Section 5 of the Act of October 6, 1917, Amendment 12 U.S.C. 95A, are hereby approved and confirmed. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the Trading with the Enemies Act was the president's power in commander in chief. It was a military act. Okay, Congress approved the military. Remember, Congress has to approve the declaration of war. Ladies and gentlemen, did you know that even in the times of war, habeas corpus cannot be suspended? Ain't that interesting? Notice what this one says. Sorry. Wait, hold on. I don't know who this is. He got to talk to me. Nope, that's not the one. Not that one. Funkadelic. All right, I can't tell, but I'm gonna let it play. I don't know the song. The president may investigate, regulate, prohibit any such rules or regulations as he may prescribe, which means the Constitution. No, it doesn't. Congress doesn't have the authority to suspend the Constitution. So you just have to be able to articulate this, people. That's all you have to be able to do is be able to explain, okay, where you're coming from. During times of war or other periods of national emergency, the president may, through any agency he may designate or otherwise investigate, regulate, and prohibit, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking for a particular point, and so it's not going to be here. Even though this talks about it, it's not going to be here. This shows you where everything comes from. This shows you that we're under military rule. And then I'm going to talk about how everybody else is, they're not wrong, they're just not putting all the pieces together. It is necessary for you guys to put the pieces together. Now it says no contract is considered valid between enemies. That's a lie because enemies must continue to respect their contracts. See, it says at least so far as to give them a remedy in the courts of either government. And they have, in the language of civil war, no ability to sustain persona standi in judicio, basically standing in the courts. They're saying they have no right to justice. They're trying to say that since the people were supposedly declared enemies, that they don't have a standing in the court. Not true. Ladies and gentlemen, we told you that all the courts are operating under courts martial, military courts, that even in military courts you have the right to due process. Okay? You have the right to due process. Now, a lot of people are going to read this stuff, and I like the part they highlighted license. Okay? They highlighted license in this particular Senate report. The trade of commerce regulated or prohibited defined in subsections A, B, C, and D and E, page 4. This trade covers almost every imaginable transaction and is forbidden or made unlawful except when allowed under a form of license issued by the Secretary of Commerce. This authorization of trading under license constitutes a principal modification of the rules of international law forbidding trade between citizens of belligerents for the powers granted by such licenses, and therefore exemption from the operation of law is given by the bill. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you that you need to find out what the regulations are for the Secretary of Commerce so that you can receive a license to do business in the United States. Because remember, it talks about between citizens of belligerents. That's what I would do if it were me. I would contact the Secretary of Commerce and ask them about how to obtain a license to do trading in the United States and with the United States during a time of war, during a time of declared war, during a time of declared national emergency. Okay? Now, pay attention. I like this right here. This is where we're talking about Senate document number 43. Notice this. Where's my mouse? The ultimate ownership of all property is in the state. Individual so-called ownership is only by virtue of government, i.e. law, amounting to mere user. And the use must be in accordance with law and subordinate to the necessities of the state. This is their law that says that, not mine. Private property, Constitution provides, shall not be taken for public use without just compensation. Now, it's not that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the law. It's called the right to property. Okay? It's called the right to property. Let's see. Extraordinary and unforeseen occasions arise, however, beyond all doubt, in cases of extreme necessity in times of war or in immediate and impending public danger, in which the private property must be impressed into public service, or may be seized or appropriate public use, or may even be destroyed without consent of the owner. Excuse me? No, don't think so. Congress does not have the authority to take someone's private property without due process of law, the Fourth Amendment. So that right there, sorry, this is anime, y'all. It just stays on in the background. Okay, we'll take care of, oh, that was Office. Office, are you finished? It says it ran into an error. What type of error could you run into, Office? I'll take care of that later. I'm not going to worry about it right now. Okay, let's continue, shall we? We're not worried about Herbert Hoover. I'm looking for something in particular, and I can't tell you what I'm looking for. I should just put you guys on pause and find it, but I should be able to find it rather quickly by the dates. Nope, I'm not going to be able to find it. And this actual article highlighted it, said it was going to talk about it. So let's talk about it, shall we? We're going to go here. This is the Commander-in-Chief powers. So we're going to bring this up a little bit. We're at 125. I want you guys to be able to see it. Now we have this in gaming mode. Now sometimes it's worked, sometimes it hasn't. Sometimes when you view the screen after I do the video, you can see it. But other times it makes the screen so squished and so small because it's a configuration issue. Using a different computer, so I've already done a mini video and checked it out, and I like how it brings it to the fore so that you can see what I'm reading a lot more close. Okay, I'm looking for Commander-in-Chief. Don't care about the declaration of war. The authority and power in the Constitution to do what he feels should be done regardless of what Congress does. That's what President Clinton, Democrat, had to say. I mean, that's what the quote-unquote Bob Dole said about Clinton. I'm not concerned about this stuff. I'm more concerned about the Commander-in-Chief. And so I am going to have to put you guys on hold so I can find it. I thought this was going to talk about it, but it didn't. Okay, look at that. It's all of them are going to go right to this right here. This case, because that's the case that highlighted everything, that put everything in perspective. So give me a second, y'all. We're going to put y'all on hold. Get back to y'all in about an hour. No, just kidding. 1 second. Okay, let me see if I can get you guys to understand how long this has been going on. We know that we have at least since before the Civil War, okay, since the War of 1812, at least they've been doing this. So let me explain to you what's going on and how we can prove it. Are you guys ready for this? You guys have heard about the gold fringe flag. Some people say it represents admiralty, it represents maritime jurisdiction. Well, let me read to you what is actually the facts so that you'll have the facts. The flag displayed in state courts and the courts of the United States, excuse me, the United States courts and states courts, because it's not the courts of the United States anymore, have a gold or yellow fringe on it. That is your warning that you are entering into a foreign enclave. They're correct about the foreign enclave. I'll explain that in a minute. The same as if you were stepping into a foreign embassy and you will be under the jurisdiction of that flag unless you don't submit. If you submit to the jurisdiction, then you're submitting to the jurisdiction, that foreign jurisdiction. The flag with the gold or yellow fringe has no constitution, no laws, no rules of course, blah, 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 blah. Not recognized by a nation. That's not correct. It is recognized by the nations because it's recognized by sovereign nations. Military jurisdiction. Military flag with the gold fringe. Military law flag pursuant to 4 USC Chapter 1, subsection 1, 2, and 3, Executive Order 10-834, August 21st, 1959, and 24 Federal Registry 6865. That's what the FR stands for. It doesn't stand for Franklin Roosevelt. It's Federal Registry. A military flag is a flag that resembles the regular flag of the United States, except that it has a yellow fringe and a border on 3 sides. The President of the United States designated this deviation from the regular flag by executive order, and in its capacity as Commander-in-Chief of the military, of the Army and the Navy, is the actual wording. But pay attention. By placing the gold fringe on the national flag, the dimensions of the flag and the arrangements and the stars in the Union are matters of detail not controlled by statute. Pay attention. This is the top attorney for the United States said this in 1920, but are within the discretion of the President as Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy. Okay? It says the President did this in his capacity as Commander-in-Chief of the United States Army and Navy. He declared, the President at the time of 1933, a national emergency in his capacity as Commander-in-Chief. Congress recognized his authority as Commander-in-Chief of the United States Army and Navy to declare a national emergency, that they supported that by enacting his ability to declare a national emergency into law. Because the President never declared that, and because Congress has never declared a cessation of the Act of March 9, 1933, we are still in the national emergency. It is military. How do we know? Because the flag exists in those courts under the President's Commander-in-chief capacity, his military capacity. Ladies and gentlemen, what is the unique thing about the United States military that you all need to know? Okay, let's do this. USLITY. And let's do this. I just need to find it. I know it's the Third Amendment, okay? But I needed to find it. See, they even have it under article, but I want it under the amendment, not the article. Because the amendment, let's do it that way. See if it'll get it for me. Yeah, I'm doing all stuff all over the place here. Oh, it didn't pull up the Third Amendment. It says Article 3. Let's do it that way, see if it'll give it to me. You would think you'd just be able to put it in, and it's one of the first things that would come up. All right, Amendment to the United States Constitution. United States Constitution online. Let's go to Cornell Law. It's the official site for United States laws. It's Cornell Law. Okay, that's why I go here when we're looking up law. The Third Amendment. No soldier in the time of peace, or shall in the time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner prescribed by law. Okay, the Third Amendment is associated with the wonderful Article number 2. Now, why am I showing you the Third Amendment and the article? Because remember, they took possession of your property during a time of war, which means they are quartered in your home. Okay? Can't do that without due process of law. So let's go here. Very first one, usconstitution.net const HTML. Come on, hurry up! God, it just takes so long, doesn't it? Okay, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Who cares about James Madison's stupid birthday? Who cares about that idiot? God. Sorry. Slave owners, y'all. I ain't got no time for them. Let me let you guys know about the article of the Constitution that specifically, we're going to article number 2, specifically talks about civilian power over the military. Civilian power over the military? You mean the civilians get power over the military? Okay. And when we talk about the states and all of this stuff, we're not going to go there. We don't need to talk about trial by jury, original jurisdiction, and jury trials. Ladies and gentlemen, what's the difference between a trial by jury, original jurisdiction, and jury trials? What's the difference between trial by jury and a jury trial? Didn't think about that, did you? And then let's go over Article 3, judicial powers. That's why they talk about Article 3 courts. Ain't that interesting, huh? Remember, they're supposedly not operating under the Constitution, but again, they couldn't suspend the Constitution because there's no constitutional authority for them to suspend the Constitution. They would need the authority, the delegation of authority in the first place, and they don't have that. Notice this: the president shall be the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militias of the several states. So he even controls the militias. When called into active service of the United States, he may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer of each of the executive department upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective office, and he shall have the power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. Okay, he shall have the power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the Senate present concur. Well, what if they're not present? Then they don't have to concur. He shall nominate and by and with the advice of and the consent of the Senate shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and councils, judges of the Supreme Court, and of other officers of the United States, whose appointments are not herein otherwise provided, and which shall be established by law, but Congress may by law vest the appointment of such inferior officers as it thinks proper, and the president alone, in the courts of law and the heads of department. Ladies and gentlemen, what did we just read? We just read this from a standpoint that I have never read it before. Let me show you so that you get it, so that you see exactly what we're reading. The executive branch, civilian power over military, cabinet pardon power, appointment. Let's do this, y'all. It says the president shall be commander-in-chief. He shall have the power to grant reprieves and pardons and otherwise for offenses against the United States or in cases except for cases of impeachment. He shall have the power to, with the advice and consent of the Senate, to make treaties and all this other stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, did we step away from the commander-in-chief of the Army? We're talking about two separate capacities here. When he makes the appointments of these officers, is he doing it in his commander-in-chief capacity? They're going by the wording of this document here, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing in here separated the fact that he says the president shall be commander-in-chief of the Army. Here's the only problem. The Army must defend and protect against foreign invasion. Am I right? Let's do that. Did I put that? Yeah. This is Cindy, y'all. She's singing time after time. Okay, she'll be waiting. Time after time. Oh, see, you guys may not be able to hear it, but let me show you. Oh, I can't turn it up. Yeah, I can. Let's turn it up. Okay. That is the Bluetooth speaker connected. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and turn it down because I don't need Cindy to be that loud. Okay. Now, that being the case, let's get this understood so we can understand where the military comes in at. And I'm going to put you guys on pause so I can go relocate my signal booster. 1 second. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a little bit of Herbie Hancock with Rocket. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we need to understand with what the Constitution says. So let's go against all enemies. It is absolutely necessary that we understand what the United States military is supposed to be there for. Some of the words did not appear here, and I guess the people who put this together didn't go back and correct that because they probably don't know. Okay. Oh, look at that. Elected and appointed officials of our federal government take an oath of office. Get out of here. Nobody asked you to show up. Okay, we don't care about that. We're looking for the actual authority of the United States military. But they didn't take me straight there. They took me everywhere else but there. So we're going to leave this alone. I thought that, like I said, I've not been to these sites before. We're doing this research in real time, people. I'm doing it with you. Okay, Article 4, Section 4. Oh, I don't care about the oath of office. Okay, I could care less about the oath of office. I care more about the Article 4, Section 4 for the United States military. The United States shall guarantee to every state of the Union a republican form of government. It's a republic, and shall protect them against invasion and on application of legislature of the executive when the legislature cannot convene against domestic violence. Okay? But, ladies and gentlemen, we need to understand that the federal government has placed the Army in place to protect against foreign invasion. That is the duty of the military, nothing else. So there are a lot of people, that's what Donald Trump, that's what he's claiming to put into place. Okay? No wonder it is invasion. Let's get our invasion there so that we have the correct. Oh, it's not the other invasion, it's the other invasion. Well, anyway, well, it's legalese, so sometimes they don't always spell it the same way. So let's do this. What was envision? No, I'm not really concerned about what is an invasion. I'm more concerned about what was the intent of Congress when they enacted this particular clause in the amendment. Okay, but I'm looking for the actual wording and not all of this talk. No, see, uh, okay. The act provided, this is February 28, 1795. It's later, the new Congress enacted a law providing for militia to be called up in the event of an invasion. Okay, let's read it. That whenever the United States shall be invaded or be in imminent danger of invasion from a foreign nation or Indian tribe, it shall be lawful for the President of the United States to call forth such members of the militia of the state or states most convenient to the place of danger or scene of action as he may judge needed to repel the invasion. Okay, this actually doesn't say what I needed to say, what I wanted to say. Well, no, let's go back to what I needed to say. I needed to say that the United States military is there to protect against foreign invasion. And I'm not pulling up that directly. Let's see. No. This is not what it's not giving me. Let's get rid of the word army. It should be to protect and defend against. So these two words are out of place. Oh, it wouldn't let me move it. Look at that. It won't let me move it. Okay. All right. I see how you want to be. All right. So that's how you want to be? Nah. All right. Hold on. Uh-oh. How did I get Plotech? Yeah, we'll just do it here. Because I didn't hit the back button enough. Let's see. Don't care about what is an invasion. Why is everybody talking about everything but the right stuff? All right. No, I don't want the militia group. It's still talking about the militia group. Let's go with Bill of Rights. Bill O'Reilly? No, Bill of Rights. Bill O'Reilly? Oh God, shut up. Um, yeah, see that website came up again, the 10th Amendment Center. The Federalist number 26. I don't want the Federalist Papers. Ah, yeah, we just had this, and I don't care about this stuff right here. I'm looking for direct quotes. Give me a second. No, we're gonna let y'all listen to Stone Love by the Supremes. Now, mind you, Diana Ross I can't really say anything about her because I don't know the young lady. But I grew up in a house with a lot of women, and many of them didn't like Diana. Okay, and it was only because of her attitude that she projected. And so, you know, I just, thought I'd let you know. Uh, let's see. I don't want Arizona's right to defend against foreign invasion. Dang it! How come? See, everything else is there. Oh, dag nabbit! I just remembered something, ladies and gentlemen. I do apologize to all of you guys for this. I'm looking for something that doesn't actually. It's not there. It doesn't exist. It is Article 4, and oh, by the way, I'm also looking in Yahoo. Okay, Yahoo is the problem. Okay, because if it was Google, I would find it, but Yahoo's the problem. All right, let me show you guys something. Let me tell you something. Let me show you guys something that I want to let you know what's going on. Okay, it says I don't care about the domestic violence stuff, but what I care about is the invasion. Article 4 itself. Where you at, Article 4? I thought you were in here. No, this is about Arizona. Nobody cares about Arizona. Every state of the Union Republican form of government shall protect them against invasion. Ladies and gentlemen, an invasion cannot happen from within. An invasion can only happen from without because you have to invade. Okay, so an invasion can only happen from without, which is where you get the foreign invasion. Okay, shall protect them, each of them, against invasion. Okay, that's what the military is. That's why every military is a sovereign territory, its own sovereign base. When the president is acting in his capacity as commander in chief, he is acting in a capacity of a foreign agent, a foreign military. The United States itself does not have a military. That's why it has the militias. Okay, that's what the militias are there for, because they needed something to protect. That's why you have the National Guard, people, because they needed someone to protect within. They needed now, they already had the army to protect without, so now they needed somebody to protect within. So, foreign invasion, it's implied in the fact that you cannot be invaded from the inside, you can only be invaded from outside. And let me see if I can prove this to you guys, because the problem is that's why it took me so long, because I'm so used to saying the generic thing that they're to protect against foreign invasion. Well, no, they're to protect against invasion, but all invasions are foreign. How do we know all invasions are foreign? Because we're looking up the definition for the word invasion, and we're not even looking up the legal definition. We're just looking up the definition. Look, Ma, it's a gay man in tights. Shut up. Sorry about that. All right. Act of invading, especially in the instance of an armed forces into a territory to conquer, into a territory, entry into bodily tissue, an invasion. An invasion of a military offensive in which large parts of the combatants, come on, get out of here. I keep going too far to the bottom. Okay, in which large parts of the combatants of one geographical entity aggressively enter territory controlled by another such entity. Ladies and gentlemen, invasion means that someone comes into something. Okay, define invasion, the act of invading, especially an incursion by an army for conquest or plunder. Invasion in a sentence. Okay, so invasion automatically implies that someone is coming from without to get within. See, again, an act or an instance of invading or entering as an enemy, especially by an army. So the army can only protect against foreign creatures. It cannot deal with the citizenry. But remember, the president stands in his capacity as what? Commander in chief, commander in chief, commander in chief of the military, which is a foreign entity, because the military is there to protect against foreign invasion or against invasion, period, it must be from without. It cannot be from within. So if we go by the letter of the law, the military cannot exist on American soil because they have no authority on American soil. They can only protect against invasion, and invasions are always foreign. Pay attention to the wording of the statute because this is what it says: and shall protect them against invasion. Against. So they can't be within because then they won't be against. They have to repel the invasion. That's the point. So we're going to round all of this up like I told you. An hour and 15 minutes. Look what you did to us. And now you're talking about rounding things up. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to even take out the music. Maybe I'm Amazed. I don't know this song, y'all. Who is Maybe I'm Amazed? I don't know who this is, so we ain't going to play him. Ladies and gentlemen, let me explain what's going on so all of you get it. When Congress enacted the Trading with the Enemies Act after World War I, please understand the Trading with the Enemies Act of October 6, pay attention, 1917, I said after World War I. No, they enacted that during World War I. What you all need to understand is World War I and World War II were both scripted. The actors and the people involved, it was all scripted. They already knew who was going to win the war. What you mean they already knew who was going to win the war? We are not going to go too deep into this because y'all can't handle it. Okay? Y'all hear me? Y'all can't handle it. Give me a second. I got to look for something. But anyway, oh, it's not on. I didn't install it. Sorry, I reprogrammed this computer a couple of weeks ago, and there is something I didn't install, so I'm gonna have to install it. Well, anyway, I was actually going to take you to the scripture where it talks about who would win World War One. This is anime, y'all. I can't help some of the designs, so that's why I covered her up. Even though she ain't really showing nothing, I done covered her up because she shouldn't be showing nothing. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, it's a bunch of anime. I pulled 1,000 animes and anime. Back to this so that you guys get. Oh, look at that! He's showing pornography on his video. Shut up! God. Sorry, that's what some people say. That's the stupidity. That's where some people's minds go. Let me get back to this so that you guys understand. In scripture, in the book of Daniel, the 11th chapter, it talks about the king of the north and the king of the south. Most people are reading that to believe that the king of the north and the king of the south are the same throughout the 11th chapter. They don't realize that the 11th chapter of Daniel covers centuries and not just a single time period. And the king of the north changes over those centuries. Well, in the final part of the days in which we live, it mentions the king of the north and the king of the south. What people don't realize is that the king of the south, United States, Great Britain, and the king of the north, it has switched between China, Russia, and Germany. Okay? The king of the north is always defeated by the king of the south until the final battle. And then that's when the king of the north decides he wants to kick butt. And he comes in with a Ford or with a rushing force or an overwhelming force. That's soon to come. Does he survive? What's the end of that battle? You'll have to read it for yourself. But let's get this. It's already been scripted because they already knew what the prophecy said. So they were only working out prophecy. So that's why they could come up with these acts and these laws well in advance. Remember, everything they do is scripted, well planned, years and centuries in advance. They don't just come up with a plan at the last minute. When they came up with the Economic Emergency Relief Act, remember, it was already put in place before Roosevelt came into office, just like the Patriot Act was already written before Bush even got into office, before 9/11 ever happened. This is what they do. All right. What happened is in 1917, October 6, Congress came up with an act called the Trading with the Enemies Act, which made it unlawful for individuals to engage in any business relationship with America's enemies. Fine, no big deal. That seems reasonable, doesn't it? Well, what you didn't know is that they were going to amend that act because that's what it was put in place for, so as to apply to a lot of other situations. And then the president could declare an emergency. Ladies and gentlemen, the president does not have the authority under the Constitution to declare an emergency. That was just something that he did, and he did so by stating his emergency was the so-called Trading with the Enemies Act, the banking emergency. And when he declared that emergency, Congress went along with him. Well, remember, when he became president, he was a puppet in the first place. Remember, it was a Democratic Congress that swept in. When was the last time we heard of somebody sweeping in with a Democratic Congress, a newly elected Congress, and then they're making bills and deals? Wasn't that what they did with Clinton? Didn't that the same thing they did with Bush, a Republican Congress? Well, Bush didn't have a Republican Congress. He had it at the end. Well, not really. Well, shut up. Because Clinton walked out with a Republican Congress in place. Bush walked in and had to deal with a Democratic Congress, and then Obama walked in with a Democratic Congress and then lost those idiots, and then, Republican. It makes no difference whether it's Republican or Democrat. This is what they do when they want to pass substantive acts that affects more people to make it look like it's legitimate. Well, the Trading with the Enemies Act, when it was amended in 1933, the president issued a proclamation. That proclamation was issued under executive order. Military gives orders. Remember, his executive order or proclamation was done under military authority. When Lincoln freed the slaves under the Emancipation Proclamation, military authority. Okay? He had a war that he had to put an end to. So he did it under his commander-in-chief capacity. Commander-in-chief basically means foreign, a foreign capacity. Remember, the military has no jurisdiction over American citizens. So what did we tell you? Secretary of Commerce is whom you have to contact so that you can do business and trade in the United States while they're in a state of emergency. That's who I would contact if I were you. Now, a lot of people are asking me about the mortgages, about the adverse possession, and about the pay to order of stamp. I'll be doing a video explaining to you all that information, but I needed to make sure you all knew substantially that you were in a military court when they have the gold fringe flag or when they don't have the gold fringe flag. Why? Because we're still under the national emergency. It has not ended. See? State emergency. It's still ongoing, people. In 1976, they were still saying it was ongoing. In the Supreme Court case, this is not the Butler case, but the Supreme Court case that we talked about earlier. I don't know about the Butler case, but I'll take a look at it later. Now, I don't need you telling me about it. I will read it for myself. Okay? But the Supreme Court and the Senate both stated that we were still in an emergency. Okay? Hey, look, somebody used plethora. Oh, my Lord. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we have been in this emergency since March 9th, 1933. Remember, this is talking about the bankruptcy. We have been in a state of emergency since March 9th, 1933. It is said that if a national emergency is declared, there is no constitution. Ladies and gentlemen, like you heard, it is said that there is no constitution, but that is not true because there is no authority in the Constitution which states that the declaration of an emergency by any of the branches of government constitutes suspension of the Constitution. Remember, the Constitution, the way they're getting that is because they're saying the actual act or no article that says the Constitution shall not be suspended, or the right to habeas corpus shall not be suspended except in times of war. Okay? Habeas corpus shall not be suspended except in times of war. That's where they're getting that he has the right to suspend the Constitution because the Constitution highlights that the Constitution may be suspended. Okay? But the people didn't do that. Congress wrote that in there. And it actually inhibits the ability of the people to do what? To petition their government for redress of grievance. So, as I mentioned to you, I'll mention again, the currency guy, the director of finance, that's who I would talk to about how to get the ability of doing trade with the United States while they're in a state of emergency. Some people are going to successfully be able to communicate that and get exactly what I'm referring to, and they're not going to tell me. Then other people are going to tell me they got this, but they need help because they're stuck. A lot of you are trying to get my attention because you're trying out certain things and you're getting stuck, and you want me to do one-on-one with you, or you want to email me and tell me about how bad and how difficult your plight is. Ladies and gentlemen, as I told one young lady in an email when I sent it back to her, I do not have the time. Matter of fact, the only reason why I'm taking time to do this now is because I ran into a problem today doing something else. And because I ran into that problem, that left me with a couple of moments, and I figured I'd utilize them. But after that, I got to make up for today and yesterday. So I don't have the time. I have, as I told the young lady, too many fires and not enough pots. Okay? So I can't take care of all the things I have going on. How in the world do you guys think and expect me to take care of the stuff you got going on? I am not here as your repository for information. There are only a few people that I go out of my way to help. The people who are asking me for consults, as I told them, the fee is there because I want them to respect my time. But each of the people whom I've talked to have gotten more than 4 hours of my time. Why? Because they're not just paying for a stupid hour. They're respecting my time and I'm respecting theirs. So we get to have long, drawn out conversations where I record on audio on the phone and I record on my computer so they could see everything I'm talking about. And then I send them a copy so that they have a copy of everything I talked about and seeing exactly what I was talking about and how I was talking about it while I'm talking about it. That's designed to bring it back to their memory. That's designed so that they'll remember it when it counts. Okay. Oh, by the way, I didn't even know this talked about habeas corpus. Well, okay. No person shall be held to answer for a capital offense or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment of indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising out of land or naval forces or arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in a time of war or public danger. We reserve the charging powers for ourselves, don't we? We do reserve and retain rights. We don't give that power to the government. And we also said that the government would be powerless to charge one of the citizens or one of the people of the United States with a crime unless we, the people, through our grand jury, order it to do so through an indictment or a presentment. No, I'm not agreeing with that, but I will agree that we, the people, is not singular, it is collective. And the problem is, most people have been applying this in the singular tone. So we, the people, would have to agree together by majority. We, the people, don't order it. The government cannot do it. Not true. Remember, the government says it's acting on behalf of the people. If it tried to do it, we would simply follow what they writ of habeas corpus. Well, remember, except in cases arising in land or naval forces or militias or in actual times of war or public danger. However, nobody pays attention that the writ of habeas corpus, that's why you can't do an actual writ anymore, may be suspended during a time of war. Okay? Let's see. They're quite careful and restrictive on power, but the power to suspend is specifically contemplated by the Constitution in the writ of habeas corpus. This is what people are not getting. The power to suspend is specifically contemplated by the Constitution. That's where they're getting that they have the right to suspend the Constitution. Okay? See, we can see here that the framers of the Constitution were already contemplating times when there would be conditions under which it might be necessary to suspend the guarantees of the Constitution. Also from the Senate that said the same thing. So I'm agreeing that that's their logic. And I didn't read this in advance. I could tell that and I'd never considered they were using this clause until I did this video here. And while I'm talking about the video, and I didn't even read this, I just understood that the reason why, and that's why I was looking for, I saw the habeas corpus here, and that's why I was looking for the actual clause in the Constitution that speaks about the suspension of the habeas corpus. Habeas meaning free, and corpus meaning body, free the body. Corpus, okay? Well, anyway, that they had the right to suspend habeas corpus during times of war. But remember, the president didn't declare a time of war, but there have been other declarations of war. The war on terror, the war on drugs, the war on poverty, the war on this, the war on that, the war on that. The presidents are declaring wars all the time, i.e. NDAA, National Defense of America Act, and how they renew it every year. This is what's going on, people. It's up to you guys to put your heads together to figure out how to get around it. And the rhetoric, and I will call it rhetoric, the rhetoric in this stuff that we're reading here is not good enough, because these arguments won't fly. You have to be able to take and do exactly what the government is doing. What is the government doing? Well, let me show you. They're doing the same thing I did earlier when I took you guys to the gold French flag and all of that stuff and the invasion, to protect against foreign invasion. Ladies and gentlemen, they're taking the letter of the statute, the letter of the law, and they are interpreting it in its literal form. Thus, Congress has said there are quite careful and restrictive powers, but the power to suspend is specifically contemplated by the Constitution in the writ of habeas corpus, meaning the writ of habeas corpus may not be suspended except in times of war, is what the Constitution says. So when it says writ of habeas corpus may not be suspended, well, the right to writ of habeas corpus is a constitutional right because it's mentioned in the Constitution. Well, it may not be suspended except in the times of war, which means that constitutional rights can be suspended in the times of war because the founding so-called ignorant fathers contemplated that. That's what they're saying. I understand that because that's how I was taught to understand the law, to understand why it was written the way it was written. Remember, they chose every single word specifically and with purpose. No word in the Constitution is there because they just decided to add a word. They chose every single word painstakingly and with detail. This is what you need to understand. The courts are military. The government is military. Everything in our society is military because they're operating under the orders of the commander-in-chief of the military. Remember, the commander-in-chief of the military controls who? Does anybody know? Did we talk about it? Remember, he has the right to appointment of legislature and of the executive. Okay, he appoints the Supreme Court. We talked about the article of the Constitution, okay, where the president effectively appoints governors and judges and other officials. We don't want to read all that stuff. That's not what I'm looking for. Invasion. I think this was the one where I got it. Well, anyway, it's the actual clause that talks about the invasion that we got that from. Okay? That's the point. That's where we're going. That's the point. I think this is just the same page. Yeah, it's the same page. All right. With that being said, because it'll take me too long to find it again, so let's just focus back on this. Okay? They're taking it and they're reading it and they're breaking it down. That's what all of that going to college and being in there for, because they're trying to think like the people who wrote it. So they're saying because Congress said that the habeas corpus can be suspended during war, and it's in the Constitution, that means the right to habeas corpus is a constitutional right. However, they're saying they had the right to suspend the Constitution. Here's the problem. Congress shall make no law which obliges the right of the people to peacefully assemble, freedom of the speech, freedom of the press, and to the religion of their choice with, pay attention, or to petition the government for redress of grievance. They cannot make a law That's the First Amendment against any of those things. You guys have got to figure out how to get in there and say, oh, no, 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 no. You haven't suspended my right to petition for redress. This is a constitutional right that may never be suspended. Congress can make no law against it. And Congress, when they wrote, Congress shall make no law which obliges or prohibits, they were taking into consideration the fact that they had said habeas corpus could be suspended. Because remember, the Constitution, when it was enacted as a whole. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th amendments were all enacted as a whole. The Bill of Rights and every other act or every other amendment after that could never contradict what came first. It's basic statutory principles of interpretation. Anything that is absurd or anything that is contrary to what was formally stated is to be omitted or not considered. Basic principles of statutory interpretation. That's why they're there. So as to help people understand. It may have taken me 1 hour and 35 minutes to get this information out to you guys, but this is what I want to let you know. That I've just given you a breakdown to be able to prove from day 1 to day 3 that 1, since the Trading with the Enemies Act and the amendment of the Trading with the Enemies Act and the president issuing the proclamation under his commander-in-chief capacity, he was issuing it under a foreign capacity. Why? Because as commander-in-chief, he represents the military. He's in a military capacity. And as commander-in-chief, the military is always foreign to the United States because they cannot interact with the civilian population. They must protect against invasion, which is always foreign, from without, not from within. You cannot be invaded from within. Okay? It's just not possible. Now, that's why they spoke of treason. Okay? That's why they spoke of treason, because treason is from within. So go back and read the article. It specifically spoke of treason, but no one in America has been accused of treason, not the people. The people cannot be accused of treason since government represents the people. With that being the case, the Supreme Court in 1952 and also in the 1960, I believe it was 1966, 1934 of January 1934, have continued to state that the current emergency is still extant. The Congress, the Senate in particular, in their Senate documents of 1976, said that the emergency was still extant, meaning still in existence. The banking holiday is still going on as a result of the March 9, 1933 Act. Even though the Act was amended and amended and amended, it all started with March 9, 1933 and October 6, 1917. Now you have the basis for everything. By the way, in the next video, we'll be explaining the mortgages and how that stamp is all you need to prove that your property is already paid for. But you'll have to stay tuned for that. I have to do that when I am more situated. So that will be a couple of days. So it's coming. Everybody, have a good day. Have a good life. Have a good night. Have a good bye.